Welcome to Educare. Our today's topic is property income, specifically for individual. So, property income for individual includes property business profit from lease or rental, premium received on grant of short lease, profit from commercial letting of furnished holiday accommodation, and rental income from rent a room scheme. So these are the four type of property income for individual which we will consider in this particular topic. Now question is about basis of assessment. Whether property income will be assessed on cash basis or on accrual basis. So answer is by default it is assessed on cash basis unless you have been specifically stated otherwise. So how to calculate the property income? It is rental income received minus rental expenses paid, and this will give you the assessable income, assessable property income. Now what are the allowable expenses or allowable deduction, and what is the general rule about recording such expenses? The general rule is the expenses must be incurred wholly and exclusively for the purpose of property business. Example of allowable deductions are advertisement, insurance, agent's fee or commission or management expenses, repairs. मीन्स प्रॉपर्टी को लेट आउट करने के लिए जो एडवर्टाइज़ की जाती है, प्रॉपर्टी की जो इंश्योरेंस की जाती है, अगर आपने कोई एजेंट अपॉइंट किया है या जो मैनेजमेंट को अपॉइंट किया है कि जो लुक आफ्टर कर रहे हैं प्रॉपर्टी की, उनकी फ़ी, कमीशन एंड रिपेयर एक्सपेंसेस ऑफ द बिल्डिंग, these are also said to be allowable deduction. One more deduction is allowable, and this is said to be interest on loan to acquire or improve non-residential property. To acquire or improve non-residential property. आपने लोन लिया है, किस लिए लोन लिया है? या तो नॉन रेजिडेंशियल प्रॉपर्टी को एक्वायर करने के लिए या इम्प्रूव करने के लिए, और आपको उस पर जो इंटरेस्ट देना पड़ रहा है, दैट इज़ ऑल्सो अलाउबल डिडक्शन. But the treatment of this allowable deduction is different from all other allowable deduction. यानी इंटरेस्ट ऑन लोन की ट्रीटमेंट बाकी सब allowable deduction से, यानी एडवर्टाइजमेंट, इंश्योरेंस, कमीशन वगैरह से डिफरेंट है. Remember that relief is also available if expenses incurred before letting commenced. So later on we will discuss while considering income from trading that pre-trading expenditures are also allowable expenses. कि आपने ट्रेड स्टार्ट करने से पहले जो एक्सपेंसेस किए हैं वो भी allowable expenses हैं. सो यहाँ पे भी ये बात है प्रॉपर्टी इनकम के हवाले से कि रिलीफ इज़ ऑल्सो अवेलेबल इफ एक्सपेंसेस इनकर्ड बिफोर लेटिंग कमेंस्ड. प्राइवेट यूज एक्सपेंसेस इज़ नॉट अलाउएबल. इफ़ द पार्ट ऑफ द ईयर प्रॉपर्टी आपने खुद यूज़ की है तो उस पर आपके पास जो एक्सपेंसेस का कुछ प्रोपोर्शन है वो प्राइवेट प्रोपोर्शन कंसिडर किया जाएगा, तो वो प्राइवेट यूज़ प्रोपोर्शन कंसिडर नहीं किया जाता. दैट इज़ नॉट अलाउएबल. नाउ क्वेश्चन, Hamre owns a property that was let for the first time on 1st July 2022. Rent is 5,000 per annum and it is paid quarterly in advance on the first of the month. It means कि क्वार्टरली इन एडवांस पे किया जा रहा है, तो फर्स्ट रेंट आप पे करेंगे 1 जुलाई को, सेकंड 1 अक्टूबर को, थर्ड 1 जनवरी को एंड फोर्थ 1 अप्रैल को. Hamre paid allowable expenses of 200 in December related to redecoration following a burst pipe and of 400 in May 23 related to repair works which was completed in March 23. You have to calculate the Hamre's property income for the next tax year 22-23. So here we need to consider first of all that what is our tax year starting date and tax year ending date. So it is 6th April 2022 to 5th April 2023. सो एज़ पर क्वेश्चन, हम इस क्वेश्चन में जो फर्स्ट टाइम रेंट रिसीव कर रहे हैं वो 1 जुलाई 22 को रिसीव कर रहे हैं और ये क्वार्टरली बेसिस पे रिसीव किया जा रहा है। तो आप फर्स्ट इंस्टॉलमेंट ऑफ रेंट रिसीव कर रहे हैं 1 जुलाई 22 को, सेकेंड विल बी ऑन 1 अक्टूबर 22, थर्ड इंस्टॉलमेंट विल बी 1 जनवरी 23 and fourth installment on 1st April 2023. So these all 4 dates lies in this tax year, means tax year 22-23. तो ये चारों डेट्स आपके पास इसी टैक्स ईयर में ही आती हैं, यानी 22-23 के टैक्स ईयर में आती हैं. And remember that if you have not been given any hint whether to treat the property income on cash basis or whether to treat the property income on accrual basis, then you have to follow the cash basis. So in accordance with this question, we have to record rental income as $5,000, the whole amount we have received during the year. Although this amount on accrual basis, if we consider, we are renting out our building on 1st July, and in this tax year this building is let out for a period of 9 months: July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. It is not let for the whole year, but we are considering the rent for the whole year period. Why so? Because we are using cash basis, and in accordance with the terms of question, all of the amount which has to be received by us is received on 1st July, 1st October, 1st January and 1st April. और ये चारों डेट्स आपके पास इसी टैक्स ईयर में आती हैं, इसलिए आप फुल अमाउंट को रिकॉर्ड करेंगे एज योर रेंटल इनकम. अब इसमें से आपने रेंटल एक्सपेंसेस को डिडक्ट करना है, तो 2 एक्सपेंसेस आपको मेंशन है, लेकिन हम सिर्फ एक एक्सपेंस को डिडक्ट करेंगे. Hamri paid allowable expenses of 200 in December and 400 in May. Whatever amount has been paid in December is considered as the expense paid in this current year. But if any amount is paid on May 23, it means this is paid in the next year, 23-24 of tax year. आपके पास 5 अप्रैल को आपका टैक्स ईयर ख़त्म हो जाता है. अगर 5 अप्रैल 23 के बाद पेमेंट की जा रही है तो ये पेमेंट नेक्स्ट टैक्स ईयर से रिलेट करती है. So we will only deduct expense of 200, right, which is paid in December. So our taxable income would be 4,800 with reference to property income. While we are considering the accrual basis, it means that we have to consider what is the amount of rent that is receivable for the year would be recorded as your income. जो भी अमाउंट इस साल के हवाले से आपके लिए रिसीवेबल है वही आपकी इनकम रिकॉर्ड की जाएगी. सो एक्रूअल बेसिस कब यूज़ की जा सकती हैं? इन अकॉर्डेंस विद रूल्स ऑफ टैक्स, एन इंडिविजुअल मस्ट यूज़ द एक्रूअल बेसिस. एन इंडिविजुअल मस्ट यूज़ द एक्रूअल बेसिस व्हेन इफ कैश बेसिस रिसिप्ट फॉर द टैक्स ईयर एक्सीड 1,50,000. आप कैश बेसिस पे कर रहे थे, लेकिन आपकी जो कैश बेसिस रिसिप्ट हैं वो 1,50,000 से बढ़ गई हैं, देन यू हैव टू मस्ट यूज़ द एक्रूअल बेसिस. इट इज़ रिड्यूस प्रोपोर्शनेटली इफ द प्रॉपर्टी बिजनेस इज़ नॉट कैरिड ऑन फॉर अ फुल टैक्स ईयर. सो अगर ये आपके पास प्रॉपर्टी बिजनेस जो है साल में 6 महीने के लिए जो है किया गया है, तो इन दैट केस आपके पास ये जो लिमिट है 75,000 हो जाएगी. एंड सो ऑन, जितने अरसे के लिए आप ये बिज़नेस कर रहे हैं प्रॉपर्टी बिजनेस, ये अमाउंट 1,50,000 की उसी प्रोपोर्शन के हिसाब से रिड्यूस हो सकती है. एन इंडिविजुअल कैन एलेक्ट टू यूज़ द एक्रूअल बेसिस. इसके अलावा इंडिविजुअल खुद से एलेक्ट भी कर सकता है कि उसने एक्रूअल बेसिस यूज़ करनी है. बट दिस सिलेक्शन मस्ट बी मेड बाय द 31st जनवरी विच इज़ 22 मंथ फ्रॉम द एंड ऑफ द टैक्स ईयर. सो टैक्स ईयर के एंड होने के बाद आपके पास विद इन 22 मंथ्स आप ये इलेक्शन कर सकते हैं. यानी अगर आपका टैक्स ईयर एंड हो रहा है 5 अप्रैल 23 को, तो इसके बाद आप 31 जनवरी 2025 तक ये इलेक्शन कर सकते हैं. सो दिस कैन बी आस्क्ड फ्रॉम यू एज MCQ that if you have to choose the accrual basis for the tax year 22-23, what is the date by that election can be made. Now, if we'll consider the same question with reference to accrual basis, it means that we have to record, this is on accrual basis, that rental income to be recorded is for 9 months and it will be 5,000 multiplied by 9 divided by 12, 3,750. Doesn't matter कि हम कब रिसीव कर रहे हैं, we only have to think that from 1st July 22 to 5th April 23, this is a period of 9 months and we have to record our income for the 9 months period. While on accrual basis, we need to record that 200 expenses are incurred in this particular year and 400 related to repair work which was completed in March. This is for the work which was completed in March 23. It means कि आपके पास on accrual basis अगर हम consider करें तो 200 के expenses भी allowable हैं और 400 के expenses भी allowable हैं, because both expenses relate to the tax year 22-23. We don't have to consider the date of payment. We have to consider that what is the date of expenses that are incurred. Like यहाँ पे repair work आपका ख़त्म हो रहा है, complete हो रहा है मार्च में, तो मार्च 23 की डेट आपके पास 22-23 के टैक्स ईयर में आती है. So it will be considered. Now another question, Len owns a flat which he lets out from 1st March 2022. Rent is payable quarterly in advance. So it means यहाँ पे rent की receive करने की date different होगी. It would be 1st March, then 1st June, then 1st September and then 1st December. These are the dates for receipt of rent from a tenant. Payments are made by the tenant. अब tenant ने कैसे payment किया? He paid 3,000 on 1st March. He paid on 1st March 22 3,000. 1st June 3,000. 1st September 3,000. 1st December 3,600. So he has paid all the installment in time. On 1st March 23, he also paid 3,600. So all the payments were made on time apart from 1st March 23 payment which was not paid until 10th April. So this payment is done on 10th April 2023. All other payments are made in time. So we have to consider the rental income because it is only about the rental income. If we are following the cash receipt basis, then we have to consider a rental income for these 3 quarterly payments. Why so? 1st and 5th will not be included because our tax year starts from 6th April 22 and ends on 5th April 23. So these 2 payments are made. First payment 1st March 22 which is not included in this tax year, and second payment on instead 1st March it was made on 10th April 2023. So it was again after the 5th April 23, means year ending date के बाद ये payment की गई. So you have to consider these 3 payments and the rent would be recorded on cash basis as 9,600. Right? So it would be recorded as 9,600. Now you have to consider on accrual basis what amount of rent should be recorded. On accrual basis, we have to record the rent from the period of our tax year which starts on 6th April 22 and ends on 5th April 23. So in March, if you are paying 3,000 of rent, 1 month of rent relates to the previous tax year and 2 months of rent relates to this current tax year, and 2 months rent would be 2,000. आप 1st मार्च को जो रेंट पे कर रहे हैं ये 3 महीने के लिए पे कर रहे हैं, एडवांस में आप पे कर रहे हैं. एज पर क्वेश्चन दिस इज मेंशन दैट रेंट इज़ क्वार्टरली पेड इन एडवांस. तो 1st मार्च को जो रेंट पे किया जा रहा है ये मार्च अप्रैल मई के लिए किया जा रहा है. इसमें अप्रैल और मई आपके करंट टैक्स ईयर की months है. So that is why अगर 3000 rent है, 3000 is a rent for a 3-month period. What is the rent for a 2-month period? So it is 2000. On 1st June you have paid a rent of 3000 and it relates to the months June, July, August. तीनों months आपके पास इसी tax year में आ रहे हैं, so it will be considered as 3000 as income of the person. On 1st September you have paid a rent of again 3000 for the months September, October, November, so these 3000 will also be considered. On 1st December you have paid a rent of 3600, right, and this is for the month of December, January, February, so it will also be considered because this relate to the current tax year. But what rent you have to paid on 3600 is for the months March 23, April 23 and May 23. So we have to consider only the March month rent. Why so? Because April 23 and May 23 belongs to next tax year, right? So in that case we have to consider the rent of only 1200. So all these rents in total, and it would be 48, 68, 12,800, and 12,800 of this rent would be recorded as your income on accrual basis. Now about the allowable deduction, which is named as finance cost. It is called as finance cost tax reducer. Remember that whatever amount you have paid as interest, 20% of this would be recorded as reduction in your tax liability. It is not allowed as deduction from your rental income. ये आपकी rental income में से minus नहीं किया जाता. Instead, इस जितना भी आपने इंटरेस्ट पे किया उसका 20% डायरेक्टली आपकी टैक्स लायबिलिटी को रिड्यूस कर देता. सो दैट इज़ वाई इट इज सेड फाइनेंस कॉस्ट टैक्स रिड्यूसर. 20% ऑफ इंटरेस्ट पेड टू एक्वायर और इम्प्रूव नॉन रेजिडेंशियल प्रॉपर्टी would be recorded as reduction in your tax liability. So they are saying that tax relief is given on the residential property finance cost at the basis of 20% by deduction from the taxpayer's final income tax liability. No part of the loan finance cost is allowed as expense of the property business. जो भी आपने इंटरेस्ट पे किया है उसका कोई भी हिस्सा आपके अलाउबल एक्सपेंसेस के तौर पे इनकम को रिड्यूस नहीं करेगा. So let's consider an example. Krishni bought a house on 6th April 22 and let it out throughout the tax year 22-23 at a monthly rental of 1500, which she received in full by 5th April 23. She bought the house with a mortgage loan and in 22-23 she made a capital payment of 1000 and interest of 4000. Krishni had other property business expenses, all deductible, of 2500. बाकी सब उसके जो expenses हैं जो कि allowable expenses हैं वो 2500 हैं, बट इंटरेस्ट 4000 है जिसकी ट्रीटमेंट हमने एज रिडक्शन इन टैक्स लायबिलिटी करनी है. Krishni had other taxable income after deduction of her personal loans is 60,000. So it is given to calculate your tax liability कि आपके पास आपकी नॉर्मल इनकम 60,000 है एंड दैट इज आफ्टर डिडक्शन ऑफ पर्सनल लोन्स, मीन्स दिस इज सेड टू बी योर नेट इनकम. Required, compute the Krishni's income tax liability in respect of her property income for the tax year 22-23. So again read the requirement. Compute Krishni's income tax liability in respect of her property income for the tax year 22-23. So this is the requirement. You have to be careful while reading the requirement and understand it appropriately to respond according to the requirement. So first we will think that if 1500 is his income for 1 month period, what is his income for the 12-month period? It would be 18,000, and we are recording 18,000 of total income. We have to follow the cash basis, but in accordance with this question's information, she received in full by 5th April. Whatever amount is due to be receivable is received by that person in full by 5th April. Means सारी की सारी income उसने receive कर ली है. That is why we are recording 18,000. Now we have to consider what are the allowable expenses. and allowable expenses are here given as 2500, all deductible. So 2500 of allowable expenses would be deducted from this. So this will be 15,500. So now question is, they have given us a taxable income of 60,000 and this is after deduction of personal allowance. Should we calculate the income tax liability on this 60,000 income or not? The question is कि क्या हम ये 60,000 की जो income है इस पर tax liability calculate करें या नहीं? Answer is no. Why so? Because income tax liability in respect of her property income is required. We only have to consider कि इसकी प्रॉपर्टी इनकम पे उसे कितना टैक्स पे करना था और प्रॉपर्टी इनकम पे जितना टैक्स पे करना था उसी में से आपने टैक्स को, फाइनेंस कॉस्ट को एज रिड्यूसर रिड्यूस करना है. सो वी हैव टू कंसिडर द अमाउंट ऑफ टैक्स टू बी पेबल ऑन 15,500. अब ये जो 15,500 पे आपने टैक्स कंप्यूट करना है, किस रेट पे करेंगे? बिकॉज ऑलरेडी वो इनकम अर्नर हायर रेट बैंड पे लाया करता है कि उसकी इनकम आफ्टर पर्सनल लॉस 60,000 है. तो इसका मतलब है फर्दर जो भी प्रॉपर्टी इनकम होगी इसकी वो हायर रेट पे टैक्स की जाएगी. सो इट वुड बी टैक्स एट 40%. सो व्हाट इज़ द अमाउंट? 15,500 का 40%, it would be 6,200. So 6,200 is his tax liability. If he has 60,000 of his income after deducting personal loans, it means he has to pay tax at the higher rate, and at higher rate we have to calculate the property income tax liability, and that is 40% of 15,400, 6,200. Now we have to deduct the interest as tax liability reducer. 4,000 of interest has been paid as per question. This is given here, and 20% of 4,000 would be 800, and by the amount of 800 tax would be reduced. So the tax liability in respect of property income would be 5,400, right? Now you have to do the illustration 2, which is on PDF page number 151. Now some extra rule about assessable income, and these are considered as: first, about cars, a landlord can choose to use either actual motoring expenses incurred or the approved mileage allowances, which is same as for employment income. ये rule आपके पास अगले चैप्टर यानी employment income के हवाले से भी सेम है. और ये रूल क्या है कि either you have to consider that first 10,000 miles, if the first 10,000 miles the motor car is used then for business purpose, then he is entitled to receive 45 pennies as per HMRC rules, and for our 10,000 miles he is entitled to receive 25 pennies. These are the rule about cars. Now about replacement of furniture and other domestic item. तो इसके हवाले से रूल ये है कि if in a property business you have let out some furnished building like hostel, in that case time to time it needs to be replaced. So the replacement cost is said to be allowable expenses. But we have to consider some detailed rule in this regard. If the first time any furniture was provided in such accommodation, then there is no relief given for that initial expenditure. Later on, when a particular furniture or kitchenware or anything else like washing machine is replaced, the replacement cost is allowed as allowable expenses, but rule is that only those part of expenses recorded as relief which is originally provided. मीन्स अगर एक वॉशिंग मशीन प्रोवाइड की गई थी पहले और बाद में वॉशर ड्रायर प्रोवाइड किया गया है, तो इट इज़ द कॉस्ट ऑफ ओनली वॉशिंग मशीन दैट इज़ अलाउबल एक्सपेंस, not the cost of dryer which can be said to be allowable expense. If at start any kitchen, any item is not provided and later on it is provided, then it is not recorded as relief because it is provided now first time. So only replacement item are considered as relief. So No relief is given for the initial cost of providing furniture in the let property. Relief is however given if an item of furniture is replaced. This is known as replacement of domestic item relief. The relief is for range of domestic item including furniture, furnishing, household appliances and kitchenware, but does not apply to fixture which become part of property such as radiators. The amount of relief is the expenditure on the new replacement asset less any proceed from selling the old asset which has been replaced. मीन्स अगर आपने पुराना एसेट जो है पुरानी वॉशिंग मशीन सेल कर दी है और उसकी जगह नई वॉशिंग मशीन दी है, तो ऐसी सूरत में जो नई वॉशिंग मशीन की कॉस्ट है उसमें से पुरानी वॉशिंग मशीन की सेल प्रोसीड लेस कर देंगे एंड रिमेनिंग अमाउंट इज अलाउएबल एक्सपेंस प्लस एनी इंसिडेंटल चार्जेस ऑफ डिस्पोजल ऑफ द ओल्ड asset. You can simply say the net selling proceed, क्योंकि सेल करने के हवाले से समटाइम यू हैव टू इनकर सम एक्सपेंडिचर्स लाइक एडवर्टाइजमेंट और ब्रोकर कमीशन दैट वुड बी डिडक्टेड फ्रॉम द सेल प्राइस टू गेट द नेट सेलिंग प्रोसीड. सो नेट सेलिंग प्रोसीड would be deducted from the cost of new asset and it is allowed then as allowable expense. If the new asset is not the same or substantially the same as the old asset, only the cost of an equivalent asset is given as relief. जैसे मैंने एग्जांपल दी कि वॉशिंग मशीन की जगह वॉशर ड्रायर अगर प्रोवाइड किया जाता है तो कॉस्ट ऑफ वॉशिंग मशीन इज ओनली अलाउएबल एक्सपेंस, नॉट द कॉस्ट ऑफ ड्रायर. Here example is given if a single bed is replaced with a double bed, only the cost of equivalent single bed is given as relief. Example in this regard, Amal owns a cottage that she lets out furnished at an annual rent of 3,600, payable monthly in advance. She incurred the following expenditure: replacement bedroom curtains 150, replaced हुए. We will consider later any further information is given, then we will decide whether to record it as relief or not. Replacement of one broken kitchen unit in a fitted kitchen with a unit of similar standard. As similar standard से replacement हो रही है, so that is why it is considered as allowable expense. Insurance for the year from 5th July 22, it is 480, while previous year was 420. So अगर यहाँ पे आप consider करें in accordance with accounting, तो you may think that we have to consider the first 3 months expenses which are on the base of 420 per annum, while next 9 months expenses are 480 per annum. But this is not so, because normally आपके पास क्या बात हुई है, property income is assessed on cash basis. So we have to consider this 480 only. Doesn't matter कि वो किस साल के हवाले से पे किए गए हैं, doesn't matter कि वो आपके पास उसमें से कुछ अमाउंट प्रीवियस ईयर से रिलेट करती है, अमाउंट कुछ कम है, इससे कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता. आपने सिर्फ ये देखना है कि कैश बेसिस सिस्टम में कितनी अमाउंट इस साल पे की गई है, वही आपका एक्सपेंस है. डिश वॉशर 380, redecoration work completed in March 750. The tenant had vacated the property during June 22 without having paid the rent due for June, so he has not paid a 1 month rent. Amal was unable to trace the defaulting tenant but managed to let the property to the new tenant from 1st July 22. So 1st July 22 से इसने फिर let out कर दी property. The new tenant paid a security deposit of 800 to Amal. This security deposit is not included in your income because it is refundable generally. The old bedroom curtains had no disposal value, so all are allowed as relief. A dishwasher had not been previously provided in the property. As dishwasher was not previously provided, again it is not allowed as relief. Amal drove 120 miles in her car in relation to property business. तो कार का रूल इसीलिए था कि अगर जैसे एजेंट को फ्रॉम प्लेस टू प्लेस रेंट कलेक्ट करने के लिए कार यूज़ करना पड़ती है, इसी तरह अगर ऑनर भी जो है वो अपनी कार यूज़ कर रहा है रेंट कलेक्ट करने के लिए, तो ये जो उसने माइल्स ट्रैवल किया इसके हवाले से हम क्या कंसिडर करते हैं, फॉर द फर्स्ट 10,000 माइल्स ही इज़ एंटाइटल्ड टू अ रेवेन्यू ऑफ 45 पेनीज. मीन इतना जो उसका अमाउंट है उसकी अलाउएबल एक्सपेंस की वो डिडक्ट की जाएगी. During the tax year 22-23, Amal claims HMRC approve mileage allowance. So question is, calculate the property income for the tax year 22-23.